The idea of creating a national memorial, a presidential memorial to Woodrow Wilson, was the idea of a senator from New Jersey. The idea started to percolate, and Pat Moynihan, who was working in the Nixon White House, had the idea of creating a living memorial to Wilson and having it as a center for research. And he was friendly with Dillon Ripley and with Charles Blitzer. And he mentioned this to Ripley, and Ripley said, I like the idea, and in fact, I think that would be something appropriate to house at the Smithsonian. So he had signed Blitzer to work with Moynihan to work out the details. They, in effect, created a draft for the legislation. And it specified in very broad terms that it was to be a center for advanced research on the ideas and accomplishments of Woodrow Wilson. It was to be housed appropriately on Pennsylvania Avenue and should receive federal funding from the Congress, but was also, like the Smithsonian, the Kennedy Center, and the National Gallery, eligible to receive private funds as well. So those were essentially the broad requirements. Now, so Pennsylvania Avenue was the target, and there were not a lot of choices at that point. Then Moynihan got the idea that there are these plans in the works for this building. Let's see if there's any space that can be arranged for the center. Happily, the architectural team was headed by James Freed, who was a very intelligent and broad-gauged gentleman. And Freed said, okay, what do you need? And he said, well, we need something that's appropriate for scholars. It has to be open. It has to have sunlight, windows, not interior space. It has to have room for meetings. It has to have a place for communal gathering, a dining room, a cafe, an auditorium, et cetera, et cetera.